Hi, everybody. Forgive us for starting a few minutes late today. Dr. J is experiencing some audio issues. So he's going to speak for y'all real quick. Let me know if you can hear him so we can make sure it's not just me.
Can you guys hear me? Anybody out there? Can you guys hear me?
Ooh, it worked. Right there.
Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you.
Wow, I don't know what you did. You waved like the magic wand or your special sauce or something. Something worked.
Woohoo! Y'all don't need to know. Y'all, we were talking for like 20 minutes and then the audio went kaput.
Cool. I'm glad it's working now.
Me too. So, everybody, I would like to welcome you to this week's webinar, which is going to be epic. I mean, we can't really go on some kind of celebrating, wrapping up the first half of the year without having somebody as stellar as Dr. J. Greenstein when it comes to talking about how to run a very successful business, not just a practice, not just providing the most incredible care for your patients, but how to run an amazing business. He's our go-to guy. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, we're having all kinds of issues with the audio, and I'm going to mute myself, Ken, so y'all won't have to hear me no more echoing through Jay's stuff.
Oh, that's what's happening. Okay.
So anyway, a lot of y'all know who he is, and if you don't, well, sit back and relax because he is about to blow your mind. Dr. J, take it away.
Thank you, Christy. And guys, if something happens and you can't hear me, just like shout out at Christy in the chat because I'm gonna share my screen. Christy, I think I know how to do that. I am going to do this, and cool. All right. So if something happens and something in the chat, Christy, feel free to interrupt me. But hey, guys, I'm really sorry I'm late. If members of my team were on this webinar, and I think I have a few, like Lucas or Jenna or John, they're probably laughing right now because they know that as much as I love technology, I'm always challenged with it. So I apologize for being late. Today, I am super excited to talk about something that I've created called the Chiropractic Entrepreneurial Framework. But before I get started on the framework, I just want you to sit back for a second and ask a really important question, which is, why are you here? Do you want something different in your practice, in your professional life, in your personal life? So again, why are you here? Do you want more money? Do you want more time with family and friends? Do you want to eliminate recurring problems in your practice that create tremendous amounts of frustration? Do you want to build a business that runs without you? Through my travels, through the opportunity to speak in front of many, many chiropractic audiences and consult with many practices over the years, there are certain things that definitely ring true throughout a lot of practices. And it's the things that I just talked about. People want more money, they want more time, they want a business that runs without them, and they want to eliminate these recurring problems that just frustrates the living hell out of them. And ultimately, at the end of the day, being a chiropractic entrepreneur is really about freedom. And you know, I'm super blessed. I've been able, with the support of my team, I've been able to build an amazing practice where I've been able to go to Beijing, China for 3 months and treat athletes at the 2008 Olympics. I've been able to present research and travel to Greece and Russia and other places around the world and leave my practice behind for several weeks where the practice just continues to keep moving and keep growing. And I've also had the opportunities to leave for a period of time and work on missions like this one that I did in Haiti, where we were able to donate money, donate supplies, and literally build homes for Haitians who were really adversely affected by the hurricane that hit several years ago. So how did I get here? Well, first and foremost, and I talk about this all the time, I was able to cultivate, and I continue to cultivate, an amazing team. You know, in the words of Jim Collins, who wrote the famous business book, Good to Great, first who, then what? First who, then what? I've had many, many failures in my life as an entrepreneur, but I really worked hard at learning from those failures. And part of that is really investing heavily, investing time, investing money and resources in personal and professional development. I've read so many and listened to so many business books over the years. I enjoy it. I get a lot out of it, and there's always something to be gained from each book that I listen to and or read. Early on in my career, when I almost went bankrupt the first time, yeah, it's happened almost a couple of times based on kind of growing too fast, I enrolled in Wharton University of Pennsylvania Small Business Development Center. And I drove up to Philly 3 times a week after practice and on Saturdays in order to learn how to build business infrastructure, how to create strategy, how to understand the importance of talent management. And I would have never learned that in the quote unquote typical chiropractic practice management, chicken dinner, spinal screening nonsense that actually I learned at the beginning of my career, which I really didn't enjoy, didn't like, didn't want to do, and I felt like I needed something more. And this was a life-changing event for me. I've also invested a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of time going to conferences and listening to other great leaders and speakers. Guys like Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, all about mindset. Seth Godin, who is literally the guru when it comes to marketing. And Gary Vaynerchuk, who's one of the most famous billionaire entrepreneurs on the planet. Having the opportunity to hang out with these guys, listen to them, have conversations around business has been a remarkable experience. But it took a significant investment in time and money for me to be able to do this. And I invest a continuous amount of time in online learning. I am unfortunately tied to my computer a lot, but in doing so, I'm also spending a tremendous amount of time watching videos, taking online courses. For instance, this online course on blue ocean strategy, and doing these online learning programs has really helped to evolve my understanding of what it takes to be successful in business, but also in life. Because there are consistent themes for success. And while there's always new nuggets to learn, there are things that just hold true over and over and over again. Not just because you read it in a book or hear it in a lecture, but because when you actually implement in your practice or your business, you see it working for you. So what I decided to do is share this knowledge and try and do it at scale. You know, as many of you know, like I teach a lot, I speak a lot at different conferences around the country and around the world, but there's a limited audience there, right? There's not, 60,000 people that are there. There's, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people in a room, which is great, but I wanted to be able to share this knowledge affordable and at scale. So I created the Chiropractic Entrepreneurial Framework, and as you can see here, there are 6 elements to the framework. And I organized it into gears because literally gears create power. And I want every single one of my chiropractic brothers and sisters, my colleagues, to be able to learn from the things that I've done well, but even just as importantly, and maybe more importantly, the things that I haven't done well, where I've had failures and I've learned from those failures so that you don't have to. So you can take this knowledge and just have success after success after success. Today, I have an hour. The modules that I created, there's 20 separate video modules. It's hours and hours worth of content. I'm not going to be able to cover all of it today. But what I will cover today is the essence around the framework. And it's also important to understand that even though you won't have the entire course today, there are things that you will and should and must take away from learning today, from listening today, from applying today, that you can use in your practice starting tomorrow. So we're going to start with each one of the individual gears. Vision, which ties to a strategy roadmap and also driving strategy through your organization. Culture, which means having the right people on the bus and the right seat and how you connect with them to drive the culture that you want. KPIs, which are your key performance indicators, where you have a scoreboard where people are accountable for the results that occur in the practice, not just you, but everybody in the organization. And there's a playbook when you're not winning the game, when your scoreboard is showing you that you're losing on some KPIs. Process, understanding the Pareto principle, the 20% of processes that run 80% of your business, and how to become very proficient at process in order to reduce and eliminate defects and improve profits and customer loyalty. Ops, which stands for operational problem solving, understand root cause analysis, and then prioritizing those issues or those challenges or opportunities as it might be with a step-by-step solution process. And then lastly, growth. What are you doing for professional development planning for both you and your team? And how do you scope out opportunities to take your organization and grow exponentially to the next level? I love this quote from Steve Jobs. He said, "I have discovered that the best innovation is sometimes the way that you organize the company." And again, in my travels in speaking with other chiropractors and consulting with other chiropractors, many of them have really great practices. They help a lot of people. They see a decent amount of patients or a lot of patients, but they lack the operational and organizational infrastructure to really get their business to the next level. And they're also stuck in their practice. They can't get out. And so, for those folks that want to stay treating until they're 100 years old, I commend that. I love that. That's awesome. But many, many chiropractors that I've spoken with over the years often ask me, how did you do what you did? How did you get out? How do I get out of seeing patients every day? Love my patients, love chiropractic, love adjusting, love doing what else I do. However, I don't want to do this all day long. I want to do something different. I want to have new and more creative experiences. And so how we organize the company will allow you to do that. So guys and gals, I've created 10 questions for you that kind of walks us through the framework, what I call CEF, which is the Chiropractic Entrepreneurial Framework, to start to get you thinking about your business. So I'm trying to get you out of your comfort zone today, guys, because this is where the magic happens. This is not about you being comfortable. There's going to be some things that I ask you today or that you hear that hopefully will make you feel uncomfortable, because without stretching out of your comfort zone, you can't grow. And what I enjoy seeing the most, for myself and for members of my team and for my colleagues and friends out there in the chiropractic profession, is watching people grow. As we go through these questions, y'all, it's really important that you're just honest with yourself with the answers, because we can always find ways to rationalize and create the answer that we want in our own brains. But at the end of the day, great leaders have great self-awareness. So the key for you all today is to be honest with yourself. So let's start first with the vision here. And so the first question I'm going to ask you all is, do you have clearly established and written vision, mission, and core value statements? And how are you sharing and reinforcing with all members of your team? So your vision statement is really what your ideal practice looks like when it's quote unquote done. Like when you've created the ideal, most perfect practice, that is your vision statement. Your mission statement is why you exist. Like our mission statement is inspiring and empowering a healthier, happier world. That's the reason why we exist, and it's the foundation for literally everything that we do and the decisions that we make. And our core values are who you are, what you believe, and how you behave. I'm going to say this one more time. Your core values are who you are, what you believe, and how you behave. And all of those elements together are your North Star. It's your guiding light. These are your guiding principles for every decision that you make. How you deal with hard decisions, how you deal with strategy, how you deal with performance and personnel issues, all tie back to your vision, your vision, your values, and your mission statement. So it's really important that they're written down and that they're shared with every single member of the team, and they should know it. Like if you walk up to one of your team members, one of your employees, and you ask them, hey, what's our mission statement? They should be able to rattle it off in a heartbeat. And there's specific strategies that we use that we talk about in CEF, where you reinforce your vision statement, your mission statement, and your core values on a regular basis. Really easy strategies to get those concepts at the forefront of your team. Okay, question number 2. How have you defined your brand to ensure differentiation? So Michael Porter, who is literally one of the world's leading competitive strategists and economists, he works at Harvard Business School. He's written hundreds, if not thousands, of papers that have been published in a series of articles in Harvard Business Review and other business publications. He states that competitive strategy is about being different. It means deliberately choosing a different set of activities, excuse me, to deliver a unique mix of value. Now, I will tell you, for many, many years, our company name was Greenstein Rehab. And it was a cool name when we first changed our name, because we've changed it a couple times. But about 5 years into the practice, when we had multiple locations with different names for each location, I was like, this is absurd. We need to have a brand. So we created Sport and Spine Rehab. And at that point, we were kind of early on in doing rehab and including sports injuries and rehab all together in chiropractic, so the name fit. But 15, 17 years later, there are so many practices out there, chiropractic, physical therapy, physical medicine practices, physiatry practices that have sport, spine, rehab. And I was like, okay, we're done with this. So 2 years ago, we rebranded and we use a name that nobody else on the planet has, and we trademarked it, and it's called ChiroHealth. And so being different really matters. Tied to your differentiation, how are you communicating that out to the marketplace? What is your marketing strategy? What is your strategy internally with your existing patients? How are you making sure that you're improving adherence to care plans? How are you ensuring that you're driving internal referrals from your existing patients and leveraging your raving fans? What is your marketing strategy externally to the community? For instance, physician practices, attorney practices, personal trainers, gyms, workers' comp case managers. There's a whole host of people that need our services. How are you communicating your differentiation, your competitive advantage to them? And then lastly, the digital strategy. Now, one of my team members, our director of business development, Lucas Braga, and I have been doing webinars on standing out in 2020. It's about growth. It's about how we use digital strategies to create and elevate your brand. The digital strategies are so important these days because it provides a tremendous return on time and financial investment when you're doing it the right way. So again, do you even have a written marketing strategy? And how are you executing that to ensure you're achieving the results that you want, to grow your brand, to grow your practice, and to grow your impact, most importantly? Seth Godin, again, literally the guru as it relates to marketing, states, in a crowded marketplace, fitting in is a failure. In a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. So yeah, stepping out of your comfort zone and really making your brand well known is not an easy thing to do. I suffer from this myself. As much as I love being on stage in person, I struggle a little bit with like being on social media and creating videos. Like, it's not my area of comfort, but it is really important that we work hard at standing out. And that needs to be an essential part of your marketing strategy. Okay, question number 4. How do you track specific goals for key areas of the practice and continually share updates with members of the team? Tony Robbins said, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. And I don't know that there's anybody who's better at creating personal and professional success than Tony Robbins. And so what are you doing in order to set and share goals? I talk about this with my team all the time. I'm very fortunate. I get to sit down with my team on average at least a couple times a month, sometimes once a week. And I sit down with every member of the team in the clinics and we talk about goals. Specifically, we call them rocks. And so there are 90-day rocks or goals that we talk about. And we talk about the essence of not just setting a goal, but attaining them. Because working to attain a goal, to overcome obstacles, to deal with challenges is truly a life goal. It's not just about hitting the goal. It's about creating a mindset, an action plan, and a behavior and a character of actually overcoming obstacles that get in the way of you achieving the goal to achieve the goal. It is a life skill. And a lot of my folks who come into the practice, a lot of our team members that come in, they're fresh out of college, they want to be a chiropractic assistant, they ultimately want to go to chiro school or PT school or medical school. And I emphasize this point to them over and over and over again. The ability for them to learn the skill of attaining a goal is a lifelong skill that is one of the most important life lessons that they can have. Okay, that was all in the vision gear. And that was like 1/10 of what we talk about in CEF, but I need to give you all a taste so you understand the importance of vision. Strategic vision matters. You need to have it, you need to execute it. Okay, next is culture. Culture is really about making sure that you've got the right people in the right seat on the bus and you're connecting with them in ways that become very meaningful. So question number 5 is, what is your specific talent acquisition process and criteria to build and foster your practice's culture? So you can see at the left on this timeline, you've got a business strategy. but incorporating talent strategy and talent acquisition is critically important to achieve talent results and therefore business results. Everybody on my team knows, like, we recruit and we do interviewing all the time. We don't have necessarily open positions in our practice, but we're always looking for the best talent. And if we find someone and they're the right person, you know, they align with our vision, mission, and values, they have the skill sets that we're looking for, they have the mindset that we're looking for, many times we'll just bring them on because it's first to, then what? Then we'll find a place for them. And we've done that many, many times, and we've been blessed with having just some amazing people on our team because of that. We also know that organizations that lack a standard interview process are 5 times as likely to make a bad hire. And the criteria that you want to be thinking about when it comes to talent acquisition is, are they capable of doing the job well? Are they motivated to do it well? And are they a good culture fit for the organization? And another term that we like to use at Kaizo Health is GWC. Does the individual get the job? Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they want to do the job? And do they have the capacity to do it? So it's like they have an understanding, they have the right mindset, and they have the ability to get that job done. And certainly if they don't want the job, they're certainly not in the right role. That's an automatic no. So GWC, do they get it, want it, capacity to do it? If so, they could be the right fit for that seat. Again, these are small elements of huge gears that we talk about. But again, I only have about 15 to 20 more minutes, so we just need to keep moving through this process. But I hope this is stimulating ideas for you about how you can start tomorrow by building the infrastructure of your business and create more freedom as an entrepreneur. Okay, next is KPIs. So with KPIs, there's your scoreboard. In other words, what do your key metrics look like? And a playbook. How do you fix the score when it's not exactly what you want it to be? So here's the important question. Have you established and shared your 1-year targets broken down by quarter, month, and week? So again, your key metrics that you're looking at, things like new patients, billings, collections, profits, patient loyalty scores, patient outcomes. Are you measuring key metrics? Because you can't improve what you don't measure. And not only that, are you sharing it with your team? And not only that, does each member of your team have a number, a metric that's contributing to these particular variables like new patients, billing, collections, profits, loyalty, and outcomes? We know from the scientific evidence, the business scientific evidence, that when people own a number, they have greater accountability. And Christy and I were just talking about this prior to the webinar this afternoon, because she teaches around the country as well, and she's teaching other chiropractic assistants and other doctors about this really important concept of having a scorecard, of having a scoreboard. So you need to have key metrics, you need to share those goals with your team, and you need to make sure that people are assigned a metric that they're responsible for, that move the organization forward as it relates to key metrics. Now, I'm going to nerd out on you for just a minute, but I think this is a really important concept, and it's the formula. Y is a function of X. So Y is the outcome, F is the function of activity, and X is the variables or the inputs that drive the outcome based on the function of activity. So if we look at billings, for instance, as an outcome, we have a billing goal, we need to understand the inputs that drive that result. And visits, the number of weekly visits times your billings per visit, is actually the formula, the input that would drive your billings results. Now, if we dig deeper and we want to understand all the leading metrics that tie to that, here are a few that I've listed out. So we want to improve our visits, we need more new patients. We also need to make sure that our new patients are scheduled out. So we schedule out all of our new patients, the entire schedule at the beginning of care. Our goal is that 80% of our new patients schedule out their entire course of care from the beginning. I know there's some people out there who be like, well, I don't do that, and how do you know if they need all that care, and I only do it every 2 weeks. And here's what we've learned. We've learned that there's a significant amount more work to have to follow the patients that have what's called no future appointments on the schedule. If there are no future, we've got to call them, we've got to worry about scheduling them when they come in for the last visit, when they've only scheduled out a couple weeks of treatment. It's more time and it's more money. Guess what? We know that time is money. So we don't want to waste our time. We schedule all of our new patients out at the beginning of care. Now, we also know that not everybody's going to respond to a specific number of visits. We use our best clinical judgment based on experience, and clinical practice guidelines, highest level of scientific evidence. We use those two things in combination to create a recommended course of care for our patients. The goal for us is to get them better faster than the course of care. So if we recommend 16 visits for a total course of care, our goal is to get them done by 14 or 12. And I've been in practice long enough, y'all, when you exceed expectations of the patient, when you turn to a patient and say, you know what, we can reduce your frequency today faster than we expected, or we're going to discharge you this week because you're doing better than expected, you look like a genius. So, but when patients don't know or understand their course of care, and it's 2 weeks here, and now it's like another 2 weeks. So do I need another 2 weeks? Do I need another week? What do I need? How many visits do I need? What's my frequency going to be? It creates too much confusion in patients' minds. So give them a course of care based on what your best clinical knowledge is and what the clinical practice guidelines say. And then hopefully you'll exceed their expectations. Another leading metric is visit adherence. We track visit adherence, and we also look at our reschedule percentage as well, because the more patients that reschedule versus cancel, obviously it increases our visits. Again, I could talk forever about KPIs, but we got to keep moving here. Okay. Next is process. So the Pareto principle is really the 20% of work that drives 80% of the results. So do you know the key processes, the 20% of all of your processes that drive 80% of your business results or even your clinical results? That's important to understand and be mapped out. And then of course, it's really important that you're proficient in that. So when it comes to understanding key processes, an important process is revenue cycle management. Now, this is not a term that's used in chiropractic very often, which it needs to be. The profession needs to adopt it. But in the hospital system, in the medical community, revenue is driven by revenue cycle management. It is about the key processes that drive revenue from providing service into the practice. And so do you even know what that process looks like? Have you mapped it out at a macro level? Do you know the key players for each step in that process and what the deliverable is for revenue cycle management to guarantee, or at least do your best to guarantee, increase the probability of gaining the highest level of income based on service that you possibly can? So do you have that process in place? Are you writing out the process, and are you meeting with your team regularly to ensure that this happens? Now, what's really interesting is Christy and I were also talking about the importance of outsourcing. So we outsource all of our billing. We use Genesis as our electronic health records. We outsource all of our billing to them, and we still meet with them every single week. We do a call with them every week, and we are looking at the key drivers, not the score, not the lagging metric of total revenue. We're looking at the key drivers. You know, what are our billings? What were our billings per visit? What was the percentage of claims that got rejected? What were the percentage of claims that got accepted? We're talking about the key drivers in the process that drive the results. And this is a common theme, because if you don't understand that, you're going to just be looking at lagging metrics and then having to fix a problem after it's already negatively affected your practice. So make sure that you've mapped out the process, make sure you know who's accountable, understand the key drivers of each step in that process, and you will have a much greater understanding of revenue cycle management, which ties to cash flow. And ultimately, cash flow ties to two really important words on this screen, which is profit and operation. Because ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have profit, you can't operate. So there you have it. So make sure you have your key process for revenue cycle management listed out in place, know who's responsible, and review it every single week with members of your team. Okay, the fifth gear is called OPS, and that stands for operational problem solving, but it also stands for opportunities, because it's all about mindset, right? If you look at everything as a problem, man, that's a really negative way to go through life. But if you look at every situation that's a challenge in front of you as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to do better, then hey, it's a different mindset. And so, you know, we're always encouraging everybody on our team to think about these challenges as opportunities. And I will tell you, we've just gone through literally the most incredibly odd time for us as a business, and I think as a society, as a practice, dealing with COVID. And you know, the level of calm that the members of my team had going through this was truly remarkable. But it's because they've practiced over years just having the right mindset and thinking about challenges more as opportunities to overcome, as opposed to, oh my God, the world is ending. So again, operational problem solving, it starts with root cause analysis, and then it's a matter of prioritizing a step-by-step solution agenda. So the next question for you is, what is your plan of attack for your top 3 practice problems that need to be solved right now? And listen, if your practice is humming along and it's perfect, good for you, you could say, maybe not problem. What are the top 3 opportunities for growth that need to be taken on right now? But for those of us that have practice issues, because if you put yourself out there and you try new things, you're going to have some challenges. What are the top 3? And which ones need to be solved right now? This comes down again to root cause analysis. And again, Y is a function of X. It's like there are key variables that are driving this problem or this result for you, this issue, this challenge. And so we incorporate this Y as a function of X mentality. So this is, again, all about Six Sigma. And I can talk about Six Sigma for a very long time as well. We go into it in the CEF program in great detail. But Six Sigma is a quality assurance methodology that goes through a process of defining a problem, measuring the impact of the problem, analyzing the root cause of the problem, putting in an improvement strategy in order to improve the result or overcome the problem that's based on data, and then having a control plan once the improvement plan has worked. Jack Welch, who literally built the largest company in the world in GE back in the 80s and 90s, stated Six Sigma is a quality program that, when all is said and done, improves your customer experience, lowers your costs, and builds better leaders. So I learned about Six Sigma when I was driving back and forth to Philadelphia, going through Wharton's small business development program. And I was listening to the book, Jack, Straight from the Gut, which was his autobiography. I was listening to it on tape. And he's talking about this thing called Six Sigma. And I'm like, I don't really understand what this is. This is way above my pay grade. I'm not smart enough to understand this. So I started doing more work, more reading, more listening, and I finally understood the essence of Six Sigma. And again, it's a quality assurance methodology to reduce and eliminate defects in a process to guarantee the result that you're looking for. So if we can control those X variables, we can get a better Y or outcome that we're looking for. That's our approach to solving problems. You have to understand the root cause, fix those root causes, and get a long-lasting result. And when it comes to establishing better leaders, the last part of CEF is all about professional development planning and opportunity scoping. How do we develop people on our team? And also, how do we scope out opportunities to allow us to grow even more? So question number 9 is, do you have regular trainings with your team? And regular trainings are really, really important because we know that regular investment in trainings and learning drives employee engagement. And when we have continuing professional development on leadership or management or time management or business or how to achieve goals or how to develop certain skill sets, we can drive a better business result. Now, this is a really cool slide that talks about all the business benefits to engaging members of your team in leadership development or any kind of professional or personal development at all. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you should do it because you care about that person. You should want to develop your team and members of your team because you actually care about the human being standing in front of you. Yes, it does have business ramifications, very positive business ramifications for sure, and that's a beautiful thing. That's like the icing on the cake. But it's really about the person in front of you. And I'll never forget this. I'll never forget being at a Maryland Chiropractic Association meeting, and we were just going through the process of having our CAs be licensed by the state, which meant we had to spend money on the licensing and the schooling and all this other stuff. And there are people in the room with a complete scarcity mentality. Be like, well, if I invest this money, then they're just gonna take the training and leave. And I'm thinking to myself, no, they're not. In fact, if you don't invest in them, that's when they're gonna leave. And so again, we know from the data that when you invest in your team, they're much more likely to stay. You're going to have lower absenteeism. You're going to have lower turnover. You're going to have higher sales and profitability and productivity. You're going to have fewer safety incidents. So there's no argument for not investing in your team. So it could be regular team trainings that you do, like quarterly trainings that you do, let's say that are clinical. There could be speakers that you bring in. We brought in a speaker on diversity last year, which was really phenomenal because we got to learn about things that we didn't have exposure to. In previous years, we've brought in experts on same-side selling, like helping to understand the value that you create to other people in the world so they want what you can deliver through value. So there's lots of things that we've done to help grow skill sets for the members of our team. And there's nothing more enjoyable for me, quite honestly, other than seeing a patient get well, than watching members of my team grow. And also, if we understand, if we want to step out, if we want to have freedom, if we want to build a practice of our dreams, we must understand the science of motivation. Now, if you've never read the book Drive by Dan Pink, excuse me, I highly encourage that you do it, because what he talks about is the science of motivation, and specifically intrinsic motivation. And there are 3 specific factors that drive intrinsic motivation. The first one is purpose. The organization must have purpose. The individual must know the rationale, the why, as in Simon Sinek's Start With Why, the why behind their doing a particular task, or the why behind their even working in your practice. The second thing that is a necessity for intrinsic motivation to grow is mastery. This is where training comes into place. Because if you can create mastery for people on your team, they've got expertise and a deep understanding of concepts and skills that allows them to get to a point of autonomy, which means they've got ownership of the task. They don't need to be managed. They don't like to be managed, but they certainly don't need to be managed. And they develop, and they continually develop through their own learning process. With autonomy, specifically with mastery on autonomy, you are able now to step out of your role. And this is a really important statement, and there's no famous person that said it. It was me, but I've said this over and over and over again. If you want to step out of your role, whether you're the chiropractor, the office manager, the CA, you must find a replacement that performs the role better than you do. You must find a replacement that performs the role better than you do. Part of that is talent acquisition, and part of that is investing in training and professional and personal development. So, last question, and I think maybe the most important question that can be answered today is, do you have the freedom that you desire? Can you take a vacation and not have to worry about your practice? Can you take a day off and not have to worry about your practice? Can you have a family emergency and not have to worry about your practice? And if the answer to those 3 questions and more is yes, congratulations, and that is awesome, and I love to hear that. You've truly built a practice. You're an entrepreneur where you've got freedom. But if you haven't, maybe you're at a crossroads, and maybe you feel like you're stuck, but you're not stuck. I promise you, you are not stuck. With learning and action, you can do anything you put your mind to. Now it's a matter of time of getting out from working in the business and starting to work on the business. It's not about creating today's income by adjusting one more patient. It's about working on the business to help you step out, to help more providers in your practice see more patients, drive more impact, and therefore you get more income by creating more value. And that takes working on the business. You want to build a business that runs without you. That's what being an entrepreneur means. And in order to do that, you have to have a clear vision. You've got to have an amazing culture. You've got to be diligent about KPIs and metrics. You've got to always, always, always focus on improving process. You've got to be world-class at operational problem solving, and you've got to be committed to growth. At the end of the day, I will tell you, it takes a lot of work. It's not something where you snap your fingers and all of a sudden you get that. But when you put the effort in working on the business, I will tell you that freedom is truly priceless. So again, we talked through this pretty quickly today. I've reached my 45-minute max so far. I will stay around certainly for questions, but I wanted to tell you all a little bit more, and I really hope this doesn't sound like a sales pitch because I hate that, but I want to make this available. It's why I created the first place to help people. So I built the entire framework on an online learning management system. And what's included in the course is actually 20 separate video modules. And we talk about how to build your vision and create the ideal practice, how to craft the practice culture that you want, how to measure success and failures, and what to do about it, most importantly, how to solidify processes to eliminate defects and improve customer loyalty and profits, how to find opportunities for exponential growth. There's a 10-page workbook that actually goes with the video. So you're not just like listening to a webinar or watching videos. You're going to actually work on your practice while you're watching the videos. So it's going to take several months for you to go through this process. I anticipate that if you go through these 20 modules, it'll probably take you at least 12 weeks to go through, but that's okay. You think in 90 days you've transformed your practice and transformed your life? Hey, that's 90 days well spent. And then, of course, there's quizzes and surveys to keep you engaged so you can make sure that you're learning what you need to in order to implement CEF appropriately. Now, for all this value, our normal course cost is $199.99 per month, so it's a subscription-based fee. However, if you have a coupon, which I'm about to give you all, it's going to be significantly cheaper for you all. I'm going to give you everybody who's affiliated with ChiroHealthUSA, and I'm doing this for a reason. I'll tell you why in just a second. Everyone who's affiliated with ChiroHealthUSA is going to get it for a 75% discount, but you've got to sign up today. You've got to commit today to being a chiropractic entrepreneur. You've got to commit today to your own professional and personal growth. Because if you put it off, you won't do it. And if you put it off, you know what? You deserve to be charged the $199, quite frankly. Now, the reason why I'm giving such a huge discount to all the ChiroHealthUSA tribe is because of two very special people, Dr. Ray Foxworth and Christy Hudson. These two people do more for chiropractic than anybody I know. Ray specifically has donated literally several $1 million back to the chiropractic profession. And he doesn't just give money, he donates his time, which is an even more valuable asset. And he gives back. He serves on multiple boards like Clinical Compass. He works on a task force with COXA to help create strategy for the chiropractic profession. He does so many things to move our profession forward. He's one of the most giving, most authentic, kindest human beings on the planet. And he's built a great company with ChiroHealthUSA. And so anybody who's part of his tribe is now part of mine. And we know Christy, we love Christy. She's done an amazing job creating tremendous amounts of value for the entire ChiroHealthUSA tribe with her whole educational program. Her webinar series is amazing. She's teaching, she's speaking, she's helping every chiropractor out there learn and grow. And without these two people, we wouldn't be where we are today in chiropractic. So because of them, y'all get a 75% discount. You've got to use the code CHIroHealthUSA, CHIroHealthUSA to get the 75% discount. And again, it expires at 11:59 tonight. No kidding. You will not have this tomorrow, okay? So take action and become the chiropractic entrepreneur that you need to be. By the way, we have the CEF as our first course, but there will be continual updates with new courses that are added each month. We've got a growth masterclass that I mentioned earlier. Now it's available on our blog, but in July, starting July, once the webinar is over, it will only be available through our online course management system, which you all will have access to. I want to leave you with a final quote from one of the most successful men on the planet, Warren Buffett, who said, "The best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. The more you learn, the more you earn." So thank you so much for spending time with me today. And thank you, Christy and Ray and the rest of the ChiroHealthUSA family for having me here today. And I will definitely stick around. I know I've gone over my time a little bit, but I will definitely stick around for some questions.
So we do have quite a few questions.
Okay.
So one of them said, how did you determine what your mission, vision, and values were?
Great question. So I think inherently for me, like I know what my vision and my mission is for the world, but we talk about this actually in the CEF course. I'm really not trying to plug it, but this is really what happened. We sat down with our team and we talked about what does the perfect practice look like when it's complete, when it's done. And we all wrote down sentences and we aggregated sentences and we figured out like what that perfect statement looked like. We did the same thing with our mission statement. Like, why do we exist? And we had many iterations over the years, but we did it as a group exercise. And same thing with our core values. You know, core values is really, at the end of the day, the core values specifically is really about the practice owner, because it's guttural. It's like, what really are your values? And hopefully your behaviors align with those values, and then everybody truly rallies around that. But it's a matter of like you sitting down first and really thinking about like the perfect practice, why you exist, and you know who you are, what you believe, and how you behave, and then sharing that with your team in ways that make it not only meaningful, but memorable. You have to make it memorable so that it sticks in people's brains.
I love that. And I was hoping, because we talked about how you had a team meeting and y'all came up with a lot of this stuff together. We recite our core values and our mission every Monday at our weekly meeting, and everybody in our entire company can recite it verbatim. And in fact, if you overhear conversations with people, there are nuggets of our core values that come up in conversation, not because it's scripted, because we eat it, sleep it, breathe it, believe it. It is everything to us.
I just want to comment on that. That is so important, Christy. And again, I'm not surprised that you all run your practice and your business that way, because it is the reinforcement piece that matters. It takes repetition. You can't just say it once or write it down on a piece of paper once and expect it to stick. It takes tons of repetition. And again, we do talk about that in CEF. Systematic ways to drive that home. That's why drive is the other part of the culture gear.
So y'all just know I have all your questions. We're going to get to them. So this one made me laugh a little bit because we've obviously been through this process. Did you have employees resist change when you implemented this program in your practice?
I will make a blanket statement that let me rephrase that. I'm going to make a statement that won't always apply. However, I will tell you that for the most part, anytime there's change inside a practice or a business, there's going to be some level of resistance. It happens, and some people don't even realize that they're resisting it. So the answer is yes, but there are ways to overcome it. First of all, with things like creating vision, mission, value statements, when you incorporate the group, and you can do this in a wide variety of ways. It could be a new process, it could be a new project or endeavor, objective, goal. When you incorporate the group, there's significantly more buy-in. And for one very specific reason, they understand the why. And my team, they've seen me do things, and I've gone out and, gotten like new fancy tech equipment and brought it into the practice. And my team was like, Jay, like, come on, like, why are we doing this? Like, I've even made a mistake of doing that. And the adoption is not very good. And then we have to start this whole process again of like incorporating them into the decision-making process as to why we brought the equipment in, so they understand why to use it, how to use it, and how it benefits our patients. So if the business leader and owner incorporates the team as part of the decision-making process in the beginning, it makes an enormous difference to overcome that resistance to change.
Amen. And I will say this, he told you, I'm going to take you from your comfort zone outside of your comfort zone. That's not just for you, it's for your whole team. And it's, again, somebody who's been through this process. I love everything that it has done for us and how we operate now. In the beginning, I was resistant to change. And if Doc is on the call right now, he's probably laughing hysterically, like, resistant to change, really? Because there were times when we'd butt heads about different things that we were doing, and we would have disagreements about it, and you work through it. And you actually learn a lot about the people you work with, and you discover some very hidden talent, strength, what really lights them on fire, inspires them, because a lot of people that work for us, they still work for us. Yeah. Most everybody still works for us, and in that process, and we found out a lot about them, that even though we've been working together for years, their level of creativity and their experience in the past and stuff that had never really played out in the company before, it was highlighted in those moments of working together.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that, Christy. And again, you mentioned stepping out of the comfort zone, right? And change does that for everybody. Like, who moved my cheese? And it's like, get ready to have your cheese move, people, because that's the only way you grow. Oh, Christy, you're on mute.
This mouse needs to stay away from me. Dr. Foxworth, I think, gets up every day and he thinks, how do I push her outside of her limits again? For which I'm grateful, because I've learned a whole lot in my 10 years. Yeah. Okay, so this is a great question. How do you hire for the GWC? Great question.
So we will hire, and our interview process is really based around core values first and foremost. So when we ask interview questions, it's really about who they are as a person, as opposed to what skill sets they have. Now, when we recruit, we use a specific recruiting platform called Hirology, where everything is done basically online. And we have specific questions that we ask. If they don't meet those initial interview questions, it's like an assessment. They don't get through the actual phone interview process. Then we do a phone interview. Then we do what we call an experience interview, where they'll come into the practice and actually spend time with our team, so we can get an idea of not just what they say who they are, but actually who they are. And then, of course, through that process, especially on the experience side, we learn about their skill set. So they might say, well, I can multitask. Okay, well, sit in the chair and answer the phone and take a copay and schedule a new patient. And let's see if you can multitask, right? And so it's about putting people through a process that really identifies whether or not they GWC, they get it, they want it, they have the capacity to do it. Because many times they say they want a job, they say they want that specific role, and when they sit in that seat and they're doing it, sometimes you can just tell they're not enjoying themselves. So it's good for them and it's good for us, right away. Good luck, go find a different seat, go find a different bus, but this is not going to work for either of us. And I think this is really important. We are incredibly transparent when it comes to our company. We have a very different company. We've got multiple divisions, we're very entrepreneurial, and and it's not an easy place to work. And we tell people that up front. And in fact, my leadership team just interviewed a doctor candidate, and I was talking to Kat. Christy and Kat are friends, talking to Kat, who's our director of operations. She's like, yeah, we truly did our best, as you know, to scare him to not work here. So that if they really are very transparent about what it's like to be at Kaizo Health and Kaizenovate Advisors in Tech, and they understand it going in, and they GWC it, and we think that they've got good character, which ultimately is tested in the first 90 days, we typically have pretty good results. And we've got amazing people on our team. I can't tell how many people who we've worked with on the outside, consultants and other business strategists and other strategic partners that are like, you have an amazing team. I'm like, I know. I thank God every day for the people on my team.
I do too, since I work with them a lot. But I love that in the immersion interview, we do. In fact, the last person I interviewed about 6 months ago said, are you trying to talk me out of wanting to work here? And I said, absolutely. And he was like, well, don't you like your job? I was like, I love my job. But I need to make sure that you're going to be able to live up to my expectations.
Exactly.
And they're
exactly. I love it.
How often do you have team meetings, and how long are your meetings?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. Also covered in CEF. We get into detail around like agenda and stuff, but so we have daily huddles for our team. We have 2 shifts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So that's the first type of meeting. Second type of meeting is we do weekly, what we call level 10 meetings. So the huddles are like 15 minutes. The weekly level 10 meetings are an hour. I meet with my direct reports weekly. So my clinic directors, I meet with them for 30 minutes. My departmental managers, I meet with them, most of them for an hour. We have a weekly meeting together. And then we have monthly, what we call hackathons, where departmental leaders and doctors get together, and sometimes they're meetings and we talk business, but sometimes we just do fun stuff like go-karting and play at Topgolf and just do fun stuff. And then we have quarterly business meetings where we actually talk about the results of the previous quarter and what's going to happen in the next quarter. And then we do an annual company get together where we highlight what happened in the previous year and what the one major initiative is for the upcoming year. And that's like a 4-hour event.
So somebody asked, how do you know what stats you should be tracking? And I love this question because I get this a lot when I teach about the scorecard to practices, because people often don't know, or they feel like they've been tracking the wrong stats. If you look at it, it looks like they're doing well, but revenue-wise, their revenues are diminishing. Like, where am I going wrong?
So I could literally have an hour webinar just on this topic, like I was talking earlier. I could talk about KPIs for hours and hours and hours and hours. I think the key metrics that I talked about today, the lagging metrics, those are kind of the most fundamental ones in practice. But we have tons of data. We're a very data-driven organization. We have tons of data coming across our desks every single day. And we track no futures every single day. Like how many patients at the end of the day we're still in no futures that we can follow up with them. We track things like new patient scheduling percentage. How many of our new patients actually scheduled out their course of care? Those are leading metrics that drive visits. We track discharge rates. How many doctor discharges do we have versus self-discharge? We track self-discharge reason, the reason why people self-discharge. And because all those things drive visits. I don't want to look at the scorecard and see that our visits are low. I want to understand our discharge rate so we can improve that so our visits will be high. So this becomes a very personal conversation that I have with doctors. You know, with many many of my consulting clients, they're doing specific things in their practices, and they need leading metrics to talk about that specific thing. So I think, Christy, you share my contact information, but we can put it in the chat. But if anybody's curious and wants to have a conversation around that, I'm happy to do that, because metrics and scorecard are critically important for practice success.
Totally agree. And it's interesting. I will never forget when we got a new EHR software, and I was like, oh my God, there's 5 million reports in here. We need like 5. No, you need all that stuff in there. It's just that we didn't know that we needed it.
So there's one thing that I actually want to say really quick as it relates to metrics, not knowing it. We did a call, my tech company, and Jenna, who's our director of research, and John, who's our app developer, he's our principal technology engineer. We did a call with a very, very well-known sports chiropractor. This guy's known all over the world. We're having a conversation with him about our app, and I started asking questions about the metrics that he keeps track of. And one of the questions that came up is, do you track your self-discharge data or do you not? And he's like, no, but I think we're like at 70% doctor discharge and 30% not doctor discharge. And I said, do you know the impact on your business if that patient comes one more time? Is that more valuable to you? Or if you just add one more new patient based on your billings per visit? So is it better for your existing patient to come one more time, or is it better to add one more new patient? And he wasn't really sure. And when we ran the math for him, statistically speaking, if you have the same number of new patients, but you add one more visit for each of them, your revenue grows significantly more, like significantly more. He didn't even know that. So if he improved his doctor discharge from 70 to 80%, he improved his discharge percentage by 10%, where his patients adhered 2 or 3 more visits more, his revenue would grow exponentially. But he thought it was a medium problem, because he's like, 70% is pretty good. But what he's missing is the opportunity that exists. So again, it's very personalized to a practice, but knowing those key metrics, those levers to pull, is really what can drive exponential growth.
And I will say this, I'd rather know it's not a I think or my gut feeling, because you might be surprised at how exactly wrong you are. I've worked with people on fee schedules and things, and they've said, well, you know, the bulk of my practice, my highest demographic are self-pay patients. FYI, that is not the highest demographic in most any practice. And in fact, when we were talking about workers' comp and PI, she's like, well, I don't do a lot of that. Come to find out, it was actually significantly more than it was for her self-pay patients.
Wow.
Yes. Oh, and she hadn't updated her fees in over a decade. And when she compared, I know. So when she looked at what the workers' comp fee schedule was for her state, and she was almost half of that, and she figured out how much she lost in just like 5 years, she was devastated, because it was thousands and thousands of dollars in lost revenue. But she didn't think it was that big of a deal, because it was such a small percentage, and her fees were low because she was trying to help her self-pay patients, which actually only made up about 10% of her practice.
Wow. So, I mean, again, you having that conversation with her, helping her increase her fee schedule, especially for PI and in some states work comp, that can be a huge addition to revenue for the same amount of work that's being done.
It is. Do you know that if you're the increase average of $5 increase per visit, which could be 5 codes at $1 more, $5 more per visit equates to 13 months of revenue in the same 12-month period of time, meaning you didn't do any more work, you didn't see any more patients than you did the year before, but you got an extra month of revenue.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. We just increased our fees in February.
Well, good for you, because you know I like to send reminders about that stuff, make sure people are.
We listen to you, Christy. We listen.
I'm so happy. Okay, here's my last one, and I loved this question too. Sometimes I feel like I have too many problems to tackle. How do I really prioritize them into my top 3?
It's a really, really, really good question. Again, part of CEF, but what you do is you literally have to get on a whiteboard with your team You need other people in the room to have this conversation. And you need to have trusted folks in the room to have this conversation. But literally, you have to whiteboard out and list out every single practice issue that you have. And then what you do is you aggregate same or similar problems based on a root cause analysis exercise that you would do. Once you understand same or similar problems, you aggregate those problems and then identify based on both impact and ease to solve. It's like a matrix. Which one you tackle first, which one you tackle second, which one you tackle third. Because if you've got 3 urgent problems, but one is really easy to solve, you just do that one first, get some success under your belt, and then move on to the more challenging ones. If you have varying degrees of complexity and varying degrees of ease of solving, that's really where you might need a little bit of coaching, a little bit of deep dive conversation to have the best strategy to tackle those top 3 issues. That's a great question.
It is a great question. And I want to remind all of y'all, because I'm sure this is primarily docs who are on here or office managers, you are not a lone ranger. This is not something that you have to implement and you have to be responsible for doing all of this. I hope y'all all noticed that Dr. J talks about my team, because there's no way that he could do all the millions of things that he does. And that is no understatement. If he did not have an incredible team, and because he gets their input, he is not working in his therapy area every single day. He's not doing that on a regular basis. So he needs their input about how things operate and how we can improve efficiencies, which I think was one of the big things, because what we found out in that process is what different people in our company thought was going on and what was actually happening in those departments was completely different. Especially me, because I worked in that department 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's completely different than it was. So what my suggestion is a little bit different. But it's not about you. It's about leading your team to get stuff done. Empower them to do stuff. They will stay with you longer and have more invested in your practice because you did.
I love that. And you're so right. You always hit the nail right on the head, bullseye of the target. It is about the people. Like, I have people that are way smarter than me on my team. There's no way I'd be able to do the stuff that I do if I didn't have the people on my team, because they're like 10 times smarter than me. So like, if you support them and you work with them and you provide development opportunities and you take good care of them and you respect them and appreciate them and show them lots of love, they'll go to the ends of the earth for you. And then that provides you with the opportunity, the freedom to really do the things that you want to do as a visionary leader. So
and turnover is high in chiropractic offices. And I think the number one reason why is because they don't get invested in. I'm going to tell you what, 365 days a year, 24/7, anything that Dr. Foxworth needs from me, I'm going to be there. I tell him all the time, if something happened and he couldn't afford to pay me tomorrow, I'd still show up for work, because that's how invested I am in our companies and what we do. Not to mention, every time I have some crazy whim of some new thing I want to learn, he's like, okay. But it's not just with me. It's with all 20 of our employees at just ChiroHealthUSA. Never mind the practice and other things that he's part of. You want to do something, you want to learn more, you want to expand on your skills. Oh, he's all about it.
Love it.
Do that, because I'm going to tell you, you're going to develop such a loyal team, and it is going to give you the freedom to be able to do more of what you want and not have to be there all the time. You don't have to be there all the time. Yeah,
and what you just said just reminds me of one simple word, and it's karma, right? Like, if you do the right thing and you take care of your people, they'll go to bat for you, 7 days a week, 24/7. So just, do the right thing, take care of your team, follow the golden rule, put out good karma, and it'll come back to you.
So, funny story. So again, I told you we all live and die by our core values. And one of them, the very first one, is do the right things for the right reasons in the right ways.
Love it.
And you can hear it in my voice.
Yeah.
I
love it.
I mean, and we do. We all love it. So anyway, Dr. J and I could talk about this particular topic of conversation all day. Because we love it. And again, y'all saw I posted this. He has the best book recommendations ever. Like, a couple of years ago, you even wrote an article in the ACA journal about like your top 10 book recommendations. I printed that thing off and I got all 10 books. and I read them. And 9 times out of 10, if we go to dinner together, we talk about books and what books they recommend. I have them all over my house. So if you saw one on there that you haven't read yet, read it. I'm telling you, you cannot go wrong. From Good to Great is fabulous. Oh, what is my favorite one? I tell you this all the time. The one that was the parable, the 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Oh yeah, 5 dysfunctions of a team. Yeah, it's a must.
It's a must. It's an easy read. I'm telling everybody, just go read that book. But anyway, we have to wrap it up because Dr. J has a million and other things to do. And so do you guys when we went over our time. So this was us wrapping up June before we head into July. So for the next 2 weeks, no webinars. Why? Because it's a holiday weekend coming up. And I know y'all are working shorter hours. So on the front end and on the back end. So we're not going to be meeting back here until July the 14th. And we're going to be talking about how to reduce and prevent insurance claim denials because you know what? Chiropractic is all about the heart, but running a business is all about the money. And we want to make sure you're making lots of it, not losing it through denials. So make sure you register for that webinar and we will see you on the 14th. Y'all have a happy 4th of July and I will miss y'all for 2 whole weeks.
Thanks, Christy. Love ya. Bye.